Hello out there and welcome to Public Conscience. This is the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, PRIMOG. PRIMOG is a civil society organization with a mandate to promote good governance, participation, and accountability in Nigeria. I am Chidozie Ogbonnaya with Adaobi Obiabumo.
Welcome to the program.
On Public Conscience on Radio, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society through the amplification of corruption stories reported by our partner media organizations and drawing citizens and government attention to democratic actions against it. We also promote integrity by focusing on rare cases of the display of honesty by public and private individuals in the course of their normal activity. The MacArthur Foundation supports the production of this program.
Today, we will be discussing the booming business of petrol smuggling across Nigerian borders into neighboring countries, aided by conspiracy between security agencies, cartels, and non-state actors.
Petrol smuggling across Nigerian borders is a coordinated illegal business. An undercover investigation by the cable newspaper published barely 1 month ago exposed how security operatives paved way for lucrative fuel smuggling business and turn a blind eye to the crime to continue unabated. Findings show that players pay settlement fees running into millions of naira for security operatives to look the other way.
This disturbing illegality going on across Nigerian borders to some African countries is perpetrated by individuals smuggling thousands of gallons of fuel to Cameroon, Benin Republic, and Niger in well-coordinated operation with support from some security operatives. Unfortunately, the impact of smuggling of petroleum across Nigerian borders is being felt by all and sundry. The subsidy on petrol is said to be gulping 150 billion naira monthly. This huge amount is what the government do not have. The booming petrol smuggling is also the reason millions of Nigerians are grappling with fuel shortage every now and then.
The thriving petrol smuggling business across Nigerian borders further exposes the failure of Nigeria as a country to protect its borders. The unfortunate connivance of security operatives makes the matter worse. Today's program will again draw the federal government's attention to the fact that smuggling of petrol outside Nigeria is still waxing strong. There is need for it to be tackled urgently. As we proceed, you will hear from the journalists that went undercover to expose the corruption perpetrated by some Nigerians in connivance with the security agencies. But what do you think is driving the high rate of petrol smuggling at our border communities? What steps must the government take as a nation to curb smuggling of petrol?
Be ready to join us through phone and text messages in the course of this conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message to is 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message. Let me quickly remind you that we are looking at the booming petrol smuggling business across border communities in Nigeria, an investigation by the cable newspaper. The report also revealed that petrol smuggling across border towns is made possible by the collusion of some security agencies. Personnel of the Nigerian Customs Service, the Nigerian Army, the police, and others were all mentioned to play a part in the national corruption.
And according to Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, that is NNPC, a total of 116.46 million liters of petrol valued at 18.88 billion naira was stolen in 2021, and consequently the increase in smuggling of petrol across Nigeria's borders has put pressure on the NNPC to meet the national daily demand, currently estimated at 72.72 million liters. It is worth noting that smuggled petrol sells at a higher price in neighboring Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Benin.
The Nigerian Customs and the Army have before now made public their operations where petrol smugglers and their syndicates were apprehended. However, the smuggling of petrol is still flourishing, leaving much to be desired from their efforts. But we have in the studio here Timi Bomodi, who is the Deputy Controller of Customs. So welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
And also joining us in the studio is the Executive Director of Center for Transparency Advocacy, Faith Wadishi. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
We also have the Executive Secretary, Anti-Corruption Network, Honorable Beniza Oyetaki. Thank you for
having me.
All right. But we'll first speak with the journalist who conducted this interview. James Ojo from Lagos is joining us via the phone. How are you today, James? All right. Good to know that. Let's go straight to the business of the day. Give us an overview of your findings and how is the smuggling of petrol across borders carried out and how organized is the crime?
Thank you very much. So the investigation basically is moving trade of oil smuggling across Nigeria borders. It examines how people, smuggle fuel so easily across these borders with the aid of, security operatives and other actors in other communities. So the petrol is smuggling because it's not in real form. There are people that use motorcycles, they go to petrol stations, they smoke it inside sacks, then they put it on their bike and they travel across the borders. And there are people that use vehicles, they construct extra tanks to carry this fuel across the borders. And people that use boats too. So it's a very organized crime, very coordinated, and it involves a lot of parties. We have people that bear gallons for biofuel, for people that serve as informants. There are the filling stations that even pay for these people, and there are the security people on the road too, that collect bribes from these people, when they are smoking fuel. So it's a very coordinated crime, and when you have unions, they are also involved in settlement and settle some of these officials like customs and police who have respected them so that they will not stop them on the road.
Very coordinated, you said. But let's veer off into the area you touched on. You said security operatives are involved. Share with us the involvement of some security operatives or maybe government officials in the smuggling of petrol across Nigeria's borders, which you investigated.
So, like I said, security operatives are very much involved. And for instance, I think in Badagry here, I work with some police officials, when I was talking, the business is done, and they took me around the border area to show me a lot of things. And when I was eventually I was trying to, guys out what I want to do this business. I learned to that informal data that drove me from Badagry to Benin. And I didn't go with any passport. All we had to try airport. I was carrying a petrol of 10 liters, and all we are doing is to drive to at every checkpoint. So we have customs, we have police, we have army, we have immigration, but these people are not even trained, checking your stuff. You just drop their soul in there and you're good to go. So, and that's that in income, that's the country where we have what we call the Nigerian Union. They are like a body that regulates all like that. They collect money from smuggler and the police and the customs, and it's so that they are members that move freely across the border. And that we have been also in that the Chokoto, which connects in Nigeria Republic. So there's a whole lot of abuse down there. This abuse will not go unchecked. Insecurity, if that will not contain insecurity of the actually, doing what the parents do, and Nigeria, because they are meant to safeguard this border.
Okay. James, from what you have said now, that both the custom and some other security operatives, you paid them bribes just to get across, and for the fact that you did not have a passport, you were also allowed to get across to the other countries. Meanwhile, the security operatives are there to protect our borders and also to ensure that smuggling of petrol products are stopped. But it does appear that they did not do any of this.
Yes, exactly. It's just so sad because it's like in fundamental procurement, where they are about 20 checkpoints. I mean, imagine moving through about 20 checkpoints where you have immigration, check your credentials, where you have the custom, and you arrive where, and people, they are not interested. It shows you how bad the system is, and this is something that is causing Nigeria, billions of naira, and in 2025, we spent about 1.4 trillion to decide to it, and people are, smuggling anything at the cheaper rate in Nigeria, where, going, in high, when instead of the higher rate in other countries, and they are cashing in on this, and where, the economy is suffering, so it is very bad.
Let us have an idea how much you paid some of these security operatives to get across.
The first one, when I travel from Badagry to Wediapa, I paid like 500. I paid like 500.
Who did you pay 500 to?
It was each checkpoint. There are some checkpoints. I paid the checkpoint for each checkpoint paid 200 naira. There are some people they call campus, that who call campus too, that won't be so there are some checkpoints that are marked by campus, which that will be more directly with customs and the army people. So at some point we pay 100 naira, and there are some customs checkpoints we also pay 200 naira. So that's along Badagry, Awodiapa. Then I also went to Zero. Another road where to pass, I pay 800 naira, and the people, at each point, you also pay 600 naira.
And when you pay this money, you are not checked, you just pass freely, right?
Nobody check it. I don't give it change. Like when I pass the local, when I pay it. So
Okay.
when you give it change, you can't for the change, I don't give you.
Okay, James, quickly.
Okay, I have a question for you. Right in the studio, we have the Deputy Controller of Customs. What more information do you have that can assist them to do their job?
Okay, I think because of we have to be more tough, we have to be able, we have to carry a constant evaluation across the border area to be sure if the officials are doing what they're meant to do. So we need a strong border control system. We should be checked in place. We should not just assume that these customs and borders they're just the checkmaking contracts, so they should be monitoring team, to be, or maybe kind of whistleblower policy, to be giving out security intelligence information for people around the area to know or to track the data of the officials that are involved in some of these activities. I think that will go a long way with
Okay, James, I must commend you for the investigation and the solution that you are trying to profile to the customs. But we'll have to leave it there for now. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're just joining us, this is Public Conscience, and we are talking about smuggling of petroleum products across Nigeria's borders. I'm back in the studio. I have Faith Nwadishi. She is the Executive Director, Center for Transparency Advocacy. And I also have Executive Secretary, Anti-Corruption Network, Honorable Beniza Oyetaki. And also, we are joined by Customs Deputy Controller, Timi Bomadi. He's also the PRO of Customs. Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll start first with Faith Nwadishi. The report before us shows that petrol smuggling is thriving because those that are supposed to wage war against the illicit acts are complicit. What do you make of where we are currently as a nation?
Thank you so much, and I must congratulate the journalists that went undercover to do that. I'm not surprised, I'm not shocked, because for so many years we have talked about this. I've had to, some years ago, I took a road trip from Nigeria to Niger. Our borders are very porous, especially the border at Sokoto As at the time I traveled, it was just a twine. It's a rope that they have as border, as boundary in Sokoto. So anybody can do anything there, except maybe they have improved that. And forever we've been talking about this, and now it's become so alarming. We're not just talking about fuel smuggling. We're also talking about oil theft. Oil theft is a higher one of fuel smuggling. So we are in a problem. The authorities came out a few weeks ago to say that we are losing over 80% of our crude. And now we are saying that we are losing the raw material. We are also losing the final product. So I'm not surprised. I'm only shocked that those who should have taken the initiative to nip this at the bud are not nipping this at the bud. When I was on the board of the EITI in Nigeria, I was representing civil society both in Nigeria and at the international level. As at 2013, we're losing 4%. Now we are talking about 80%. It means that these reports come out, these investigations come out, and people just sleep on it. We need to call out the National Assembly, because they're the ones who have oversight on this. And because they've been so quiet on all of these things, that is why we are where we are right now in Nigeria.
All right, let's run off to get your quick take on this before we bring in the man from the customs. What is your reaction, Honorable Ebenezer, to the booming petrol smuggling trade in our border communities?
Well, the fact is that we are a nation that is being plagued by gross indiscipline, corruption, and at various segments of officialdom. I think apart from President Muhammadu Buhari, many people that are heading strategic place in officialdom, they are transactional leaders. And when you have preponderantly people that man positions of authority being transactional rather than providing the necessary leadership that they are appointed or elected to provide, you will not find this kind of things. You will not find its shortcomings. That being that, look at the issue of, let us start it from what you call it, the crude oil that are being stolen. When you take a look at that, you will understand that without compromised security forces, those issues will not endure as it has been enduring. Then the trans-border petrol stealing, the profits that are achievable from it is a driving force. It's a driving force in the sense that either through complacency or outright compromise by authority, one should not be surprised when we have this kind of a report, because we as a nation, we are not solving problems. Particularly our democracy, what I call democratic licentiousness, has imposed upon us a kind of gross indiscipline that does not address anything. Look at our refineries. If we have our refineries producing, the government will not be expending so much on subsidy as they are doing. And probably it would have been able to expand the assets and outreach of the NNPC, being the authority in charge of our petroleum, to have been able to do the needful in order to ensure that the prices of petroleums are relatively, competitive in such a way that we discourage the trans-border profit that is driving it.
I'll hold you up there. Thank you very much. But let's get to Timi
Bomodi from Customs. How would you react to the investigation, and what is the Nigeria Customs Service doing to curb smuggling of petrol across our borders?
First of all, I would like to congratulate the reporter, Mr. James, for doing a fantastic job. I did not only listen to what he had to say, I watched the clip that is in the link of that report. and I think it was a very good job. He did a very good job. To the best of my memory, going through the clip, almost 30 minutes or so, we saw various security agencies. I didn't see any customs officer in all that he did, and you can go through that too. But I'm sure he did a thorough job. But before we talk about the issue of smuggling the borders, I think it's important that we understand how our borders are configured. He mentioned traveling from Badagry to Owode, a distance of about roughly, let's say, 25 kilometers. You have close to 30-40 indigenous communities that distance. The same thing too if you're traveling from Badagry to Semeboda. It will take you almost an hour, and you have so many communities in between. What he described there, it's common in those areas. It's common because the communities are split between Nigeria, Benin Republic. I'll use the Seme-Owode axis as an example, and because the lines are always interfacing, you don't know when you're in Nigeria, you don't know when you're in Benin Republic. It becomes extremely difficult to manage. It's difficult to manage. It's not a simple, straightforward approach that can be adopted by any government agency. That is not to excuse what happens on the way. But it is important to note, because if you don't take into consideration these factors, then you won't appreciate the efforts that the Nigerian Customs Service is making to stem, the incidents of smuggling of petroleum products. Now, look at the semi-axis. On a monthly basis, we record huge seizures of petroleum products. It's there in the newspapers, on TV. We are constantly displaying these things. So as a service, we have to make a choice as to our approach, the strategic approach towards solving this problem. And we have a few options available to us. It's either we go after the big fish, that is the guys that are coming in huge numbers to take these things across, or you pay more attention to the little guys. Like in this case, he talked about carrying 10 liters of petrol across the border. I don't know what the markup would be if he has to pay 200 naira to about 28 checkpoints and then go to Benin and sell. I don't know if he can even make any profit from that. But I'm not questioning his tactics or his conclusions. But I'm simply saying that if you have assets at your disposal, then you have to choose how you're going to deploy those assets. And the Nigerian Customs Service is strategic in its thinking and execution. So our whole goal is to go after the big guys, the guys that will come with 1,000 drums, will come with 2,000 drums, and on a very regular basis, we capture those things, and then we dispose of them as required. But there are numerous risks involved in checking this particular kind of smuggling. About 2 years ago, we lost about 9 officers, marine officers, on the water, and they intercepted a boat carrying petroleum products in the middle of the water with the official patrol boat. What did these guys do when they saw that there was no escape? They set their own boat on fire. Our officers were caught up in that conflagration, and they jumped into the water and escaped. We have numerous incidents like that. So it would be wrong to assume that the service is not doing a lot. Even at the ECOM axis, where you have Nigeria-Cameroon border, you have this Ambazonia self-determination issue in Cameroon. And you find that in those borders where you have full-blown conflicts, it makes the job of managing, enforcing regulations as it concerns fiscal policy or whatever, it makes the enforcement process a lot more difficult. And so it also manifests itself in the northeast, as Madam rightly pointed out. Now, again, look at the physical territory. The physical territory is massive. Nigerian Customs Service as a whole, we are less than 20,000 in terms of personnel, and less than 50% of that personnel.
Less than 20,000.
Yes, less than 20,000, and less than 50% of that number is assigned the duty of enforcement. Now, I'll give you a scenario. If you take everybody in the military, if you take everybody in the paramilitary, if you take virtually all security forces, and you get them to line up from Seme to Idiroko, they can't cover anything.
So there's a problem of manpower.
First, there's a problem of manpower. Secondly, there's also the challenge of the terrain. There are numerous ways that you can, breach our borders because of the kind of unique terrain we have. You have the arid desert up north, scorching heat, wide expanse of land, huge expanse of land. You have those waterways in the southwest, in the south, and then the forest, the marshy lands. What do we do as a service to be able to, at least, there's no country in the world that has completely checked the activities of smugglers. We're talking about reducing it to a reasonable level, and that is why the service has to adopt a strategic approach.
Okay.
You let us into that strategic approach as we go on, but I don't know if it is safe to say that, to suggest that the service is a bit overwhelmed by these issues.
You have to do what you can with what you have. We are not complaining because we know we have numerous achievements to show how much work that has been put into.
But your best is not good enough.
See, my brother, in a country where we have challenges in virtually every sector, you can't complain. And we cannot say it is as a result of lack of trying. No, it's as a result of deploying all assets that we have. We have a current agreement with the Nigerian Air Force using their geospatial facilities to track, from the air, activities on the ground. We have agreements with other government agencies to aid us in, the fight against smuggling. It is not something the Nigerian Customs Service can do alone as an organization. That is why we know now that we need to partner with other security agencies. There is the Joint Border Patrol team that was created to integrate all security forces in one patrol unit and then deploy them as assets across the borders. And they've been very, very effective in the job given to them.
All right, we'll get back to you on this. But let's quickly have our listeners join us on this conversation. Please begin to send your messages now to 09022656167. And we are asking, what is your reaction to the conversation? What do you think is driving high rate of petrol smuggling at our border communities? And what steps must the government take as a nation to curb smuggling of petrol? Let's get back to Faith Wadishi to continue this conversation. Faith, you've been listening carefully.
Okay, we have a call.
We'll have a call.
Yes, please.
Just hold on.
Hello. Your name and where you're calling us from?
Yeah, my name is Mr. James Adams. I'm calling from Abuja.
Let's hear you, James.
Thank you. The issue of the petrol smoking is very simple. All the West African countries are selling very high price. Even in Ghana, very close to they are selling prices at 400 plus. The only thing the government can do is to remove subsidy and make it at par with all our West African countries. But because of their inefficiency in local refinery, that's exactly why the lever to do it is not there. They are not making effort to do local refinery, and they are subsidizing inefficiency and unmanned borders. And so even if all the custom officers are at the border, there is nothing they can do because all the people that are smuggling these petroleum products are highly connected, and there is nothing that can happen at the border without the custom officers knowing about it.
much, James, for your contribution.
All right, let's see if we can pick another call.
Hello. Name and where you're calling us from.
My name is Elijah. Actually, concerning this issue, I want to ask yes on the studio. Like now, you want to stop the crime on the lower level, go to the higher level. When all this money come up, you can remit the money to the government.
Elijah. Hello, Elijah. He said they are going after the big guys. They are starting from the big guys and not the small ones. Just to clarify on that.
Okay. And you say there's not enough of energy for the men to work enough. Okay.
Personnel, not
Personnel,
energy.
not energy.
If somebody wants to join a contract, they ask to bring money. If somebody wants to join civil defense or other companies, they ask you to bring money. Okay, not to hit down, but if you don't have that kind of money, will you be able to get into the body?
Okay, we have advised on this program that you should not pay for recruitment. Thank you so much, Elijah.
Elijah, that's a conversation for another day.
Not in the Nigerian Customs Service.
James is willing to throw himself into the service,
That's
but
Elijah.
maybe Elijah, but not being admitted. But please let me hear your reaction, and because you've heard all that has been said, what's your take? Do you think the problem is lack of integrity or remuneration from the force, or as he said, the personnel?
It's actually impunity. Impunity at all levels. Because my colleague was talking about the refineries. Now let me paint a scenario. We have 4 refineries in this country that was built to produce 445,000 barrels per day to meet our local consumption. The last report that we got from NATI says that in the year 2019, not a single drop was produced by those 4 refineries in this country. The second problem is that we keep giving estimates of local consumption of petroleum that we have in Nigeria. We don't even know actually what the local volume, the consumption volume that we have. The problem is because we don't have data to show the volumes that is taken out from our depot. Now, if you want to do, what they do is they do depot to depot management of fuel. If I have a filling station, or I'm a marketer, I go to the depot and I take fuel. Nobody monitors which filling stations I have put those petroleum products I have taken from a particular station, because the only way that they export it out and add that volume to our local consumption is because nobody is doing their duty and nobody is fired for it. So that's why I say, apart from issues of integrity, apart from issues of remuneration, you have the risk. We talk about the risk. What are the incentives of the security agencies that are working along the borders? Growing up as a child, I was looking forward to working in the customs. Do you know why? Because if you go to an average custom officer's office, you only see imported things in their homes. In their homes, yes. So we felt that
incentive.
No, I'm just telling you now that the incentive is that because they don't get proper remuneration, they don't have incentives to protect that uniform that they are wearing. The patriotic Nigerians, they are ready to sit on the table and compromise. And compromise, one, the economy of the country, the integrity of the country, and even the uniforms that they wear. It's not only the customs, it cuts across all the security agencies. The police is another story altogether. And you know, each time you have interagency cooperation to fight corruption or to fight crime or everything, you come back with results. Now, in 2014, between 2013 and 2014, when we started talking about the issue of crude oil theft, the security votes for the security agencies that were in the Niger Delta was increased. And that year they increased that security vote so that to bring it down. That was when crude oil theft skyrocketed. It skyrocketed. Because at the end of the day, who benefits? If there is a law that says this problem, For instance, road safety on the road. I don't have a driver's license, and I'm caught. I don't have a driver's license. I'll be given a booking. But what happens? You pay 500 naira, and they say, Oga, all of us, now the same, esprit the car, and you let the person go. Look at ordinary traffic lights. You're standing on ordinary traffic lights. There is a red light.
So
the police officer, no, the people who even know the law, they will encourage you, citizen, to break that law. They will ask you to pay money to break that law. Until we now have, for instance, I agree that we have shortfall of capacity in personnel to do that. Can we now use technology to do follow-up, track people? Even if you put officers there, don't let them know that there are officers that are oversighting them. Once a report is brought, somebody is used as a scapegoat. You see that 1 month, I'm telling you, see with this report that has come out now, if you go to the borders, there will be sanity.
So
right.
technology
and oversighting, making sure that people are properly monitored and people are punished when they are caught doing the wrong thing.
Thank you so much. Punishment. Yes, we have some messages on Facebook. The first one is from Elijah Ojoniko, and he says, our borders are indeed porous. I must navigate through Bubara borders. I regularly see how smugglers still bring in things on bikes. You will see bags of rice on bikes, load up on one bike. I now wonder how they pass the border. What is the role of the customs there? Now petrol are still smuggled to Niger. They should try and pay attention to our borders to avoid insecurity and arms importation. Another message from Ibrahim Manso, and it says, hello there, good show you have going on, but the custom officer in the studio is yet to answer the question on corrupt officers at the border. Officers were not shown in the video of the report, but the journalist said he bribed some customs officer. What do they do to officers who compromise and take bribes at the borders? Thank you.
I think I want to come to you, but let me quickly, before this question goes away, let me get your take on this question that writer has just thrown out.
Yeah, I will start with that and maybe segue into what Madam just mentioned. Yeah, indeed, I watched that video. The emphasis seems to be on the customs. Between Badagry and Seme, you have about 30 checkpoints. Possibly about 25 or so of those checkpoints do not belong to the Nigerian Customs Service. You have other agencies that are there, numerous on that road, that axis. Well, it's curious to me when we talk about this and the people that interacted with 95% of the time, you don't mention them, but you seem to put a lot of attention on the customs. I am not, saying that we don't have our role to play, but I think it is important that when you have interactions with individuals with whom, money exchange hands, talk about them. Talk about them, because we all have our duties. We are doing ours and we can't do ours and that of other persons. That is by the way. Now, Madam talked about the use of technology to aid enforcement activities at the borders. Yes, we have deployed technology. The federal government is in the process of deploying scanners to our borders. That is for formal trade.
In the process,
and yes,
okay.
we will have those scanners in virtually all our borders. But again,
like when?
Very soon. We have in Jibia, we have in a few of those borders in the north, and we have them in most of our seaports, virtually all our seaports and the airports. But what I was going to say, with emphasis on the way or the methods with which people move these goods across borders. She mentioned one of those borders in Sokoto, and if you've not been to Sokoto, you won't really appreciate what we're talking about. These things are massive areas of land. They are massive, and in between them are communities that are either Nigerian communities or Nigerian communities. We have individuals. Just let me make this point because it's very, very important.
Go ahead.
We have families that are spread between both countries, and we have houses that are sitting right in the middle of these border lines, and you can't tell. The frontage of the house may be in Nigeria and the back of the house may be in Niger Republic. So it is in Benin, so it is with Cameroon and most of all these other places. So how do you enforce in such a way that you take into consideration these factors and take into consideration the wide expanse of land. And that's why I said from the beginning, our approach has to be strategic. You have frontline enforcement officers, then you have intervention officers like the border drill and strike force.
Let me come in here, because all of us here agree that we appreciate what the customs is doing, but we must also remember that you cannot come out of this smelling like a rose, because one way or the other there are compromises. So how has the custom been dealing with its officials find in aiding and abetting smugglers? At least there's been one or two.
Definitely. I can tell you authoritatively that in the past 3-4 years, the service has dismissed, has demoted, that is deranked, has also suspended a huge number of its personnel that were found to be complicit in any of these acts. It's there. When you see our releases for promotions, you also see that there is a number of officers that were, treated in this way. And it's not only in border locations. We're talking about officers that work even in the ports or airports. There are sanctions, and the current Controller General is indeed very, very strict about this. I want to make a point. The Nigerian Customs Service is gradually tilting towards minimizing physical contact, that is, in all its activities. If you have to do anything with customs, we want to move away from anything that would encourage.
What are you deploying?
We are deploying technology. We are moving into the era of e-customs. And by that, we are going to be integrating all high-level technology to help us. We used to have an air patrol team. That is, you have our officers flying planes, and they will do surveillance, across borders. But we've had challenges in managing those kind of assets. So now we are moving towards using other kinds of technology available to us to gather information. You cannot do this job efficiently if you don't have the right kind of tools and you don't have the right kind of data to back it up. Okay. So we have to adopt those strategies so that our fight against smuggling can be more effective.
All right, thank you for that. I have a message here on WhatsApp from Barrister Aqua Margaret, and it says, I am of the opinion that NNPC or DPP should establish petrol stations in our neighboring countries and move the products at the cost that we sell to us in Nigeria to them. We will make money. We have the market, and by doing so, we will completely diminish the smuggling market. Thank you so much, Barrister Aqua.
You want to respond to that, because I just have to go.
Yes, curiously, there was a time, I think during the military era, that we prohibited the establishment of filling stations, I think about 15 or 20 kilometers to the border. Because, we noticed that a lot of people, and you see smuggling takes many forms. Somebody can fill his car up, depending, if you fill your car with, let's say, about 50, 60, 70 liters of petrol, all you have to do is drive, a short distance, go to the border, offload it. How do you stop that? So as I said, there are border communities around that area. So if, for example, somebody lives in a border community, goes to the filling station and buys petrol, 50-liter jerrycan, and says he's going to use it in his own house, how do you stop that? So there are just so many challenges in managing those places, and you want to see border areas, border communities are significantly economically deprived. There's a lot of poverty in border communities, and you want to be sure that as you are enforcing the law, you don't add another problem into doing that. These are very volatile areas, and managing those situations is very important.
Apologies, Honorable Ebenezer, but let me come to you now, because you've listened to all we've been saying. Smuggling of petroleum products has been around for a long time, and all of us know. Why is prosecuting the culprits a difficult task?
It is a difficult task because, in the first place, you must have people who readily after apprehending the culprits are willing to do the needful and make them accountable. If you apprehend a culprit and there is a phone call from higher level that discourages you from proceeding with all the evidences that you have and that kind of a thing, you won't have anybody to prosecute. You see, whenever there is a will, there will always be a way. But a system that is orchestrated and tailored towards dysfunctionality will always have all the excuses of this world why they cannot perform.
By the way we are going, do you see a change in the near future?
I have just told you that when there is a way, there will always be a way. For example, my brother here gave an example of border demarcations that are not inappropriate demarcation of border. Some houses protrude into Nigeria and protrude into Benin Republic. Government don't operate on sentiment. Government is a very complex and a serious business. You cannot have your border aloof. If there are customs, immigration, or whoever that are responsible, institutions that are responsible for the demarcations of the borders and the rest of it, and the institutions operating in those places, they should report back to government and let government do the needful and ensure that there is appropriate demarcations.
Because of our time, we are just
Yes.
about.
Apart from that, the issue
what's your solution?
In
What
30
steps
seconds.
must the government take to curb this? Permanent solution.
I agree that the government should actually establish petrol stations in neighboring countries. Apart from that, the employment of technology, it is not a difficult thing to do, but even the authorities, some people, some strategic people, some big men in the system are blocking even the deployment of the so-called technology. I have permanent secretary in the presidency who reported this to me over 2 years ago. Every attempt to deploy technology, my dear brother, we are in a world that if you can put the entire borders in Nigeria on this screen and monitor from your table and things of that nature.
Technology,
we should go to that level.
Technology is the way to go. Please, because of our time.
In 30 seconds, solution.
Your solutions as we wrap up.
My solution is that Nigerians should wake up. We must demand accountability, because when we don't demand for accountability, nobody gets it. It is not the security agencies alone or those in government or the National Assembly. It involves you and I. We must see, report, and ensure that we have a better Nigeria.
Okay, thank you so much. We move back to Timi Bomodi from Customs.
The PRO
In
of Customs.
1 minute, what do you think Nigerians should do to assist the customs?
Actually, we this will be to border community dwellers. We understand the situation in these communities. We know how tough it is, but we also want them to understand that they are Nigerians first and foremost, and the policies of government are tailor-made to meet the expectations and needs of Nigerians. So we want them to work more with us than they ordinarily would want to work with smugglers, because see, we face a Herculean task. When you go to these communities, we are seen more or less as people that are trying to take bread out of their mouths, and they are usually very, very hostile
So
to
you
us.
want more commitment?
We
from
want
citizens?
commitment from citizens in those border communities.
On fighting corruption from the inside, are you assuring us that the service will continue its anti-corruption fight?
Definitely, and it is evident in the kind of treatments that have been met out to officers that have been found wanting in that regard.
All right. We must thank you so much, Adobe.
We really must go. Please
so
visit the news page of our website, primorgnews.org. That is primorgnews.org for all the details of our reports and interviews. Visit our website, primorg.org, to get all the information about Primorg.
And you can watch our videos on Primorg TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We appreciate our guest, the Executive Director of Center for Transparency Advocacy, Faith Wadishi.
Thank you for having me.
We also appreciate Executive Secretary Anti-Corruption Network, Ebenezer Oyetaki. Thank you for joining us. And also the Deputy Controller of Customs, Timi Bomadi. He's also the PRO of Customs. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
And also the investigative journalist of the cable, James Ojo, who joined us via the phone.
All right. Thank you for jumping in there, Adobe. Public Conscience has the support of John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. committed to building more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us again here next week for another episode of Public Conscience, and remember to follow us on our social media handles @officialPrimorg. Tomorrow at 4:30, Primorg will hold a radio town hall meeting on constituency project tracking in the Federal Capital Territory. It promises to be interesting. Do join us. I am Adaobi Obiabumo.
Remember that birth registration and birth certificate are both free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in birth registration and do not pay for birth certificates. Also, remember that you can give us information or hints about corrupt acts through our phone at 09022656167 or info@primorg.org. I am Chidozie Ogbonna. Stay safe.